Yeah, film. Okay.
All right.
Do it.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Bertrand, would you please, introduce to our readers briefly who you are and your purpose of visit to Nepal?
Well, yes. By profession, I'm a lawyer, an advocate. But when I was working in Hong Kong, where I was for 15 years, there came a time when I was asked to become the commissioner of the Independent Commission Against Corruption. This was in the years leading to the handover of Hong Kong to China in 1997. And so my job constitutionally had to be done by an ethnic Chinese. Therefore, I left Hong Kong and went back to London, where I had come from originally. And I decided not to go back to the practice of law, but to start up a little consultancy in anti-corruption. And that's what we've been doing for the last 16, 17 years.
Nepal.
And Nepal,
Yeah.
I'm here because I've been asked by the government and the Asian Development Bank to come and review Nepal's anti-corruption arrangements.
Okay. You must have wide experience, have reviewed the corruption situation in maybe how many countries?
Well, I think this is about the 54th country
54th, Nepal.
we have worked in. Yeah.
So with this, your practical experience managing Independent Commission Against Corruption in Hong Kong, which we take as a global model for anti-corruption agency, everybody look into Hong Kong model, based on your practical experience and review of so many countries, what do you think, the corruption situation in Nepal compared to other countries you have visited? Is it really serious here, or the things?
Well, I've been here just a short time. I will be coming in future visits, and so I hope my knowledge about this country will increase. But the first impressions I make as an outsider, I've never been to Nepal before, is that yes, everybody tells me the corruption situation is bad. I've read your laws, I've seen the arrangements that you have in broad terms, and I have to say that there are many positive aspects of your law and your national anti-corruption strategy. But I also see that there are some obvious errors. Now, it's premature for me to describe to you what those errors are, because this is very much first impression, and I need to work here for longer to be able to get a feel for what is really good.
Even with your limited interaction with government officials and people working in anti-corruption agency, between two factors, I would say, one is people's personal one, which people are tempted to lie, tempted to cheat, tempted to be corrupt. There is one factor, and there is another which is equally relevant here. It's the situation, the context, the system that breeds opportunity for corruption.
I understand what you're saying very well, and I think it's now universally recognized that the strategy for tackling corruption in any country, large or small, more or less developed, is that the strategy needs to comprise three elements. Enforcement of the laws, the value that's contained in our law that says that bribery is wrong, prevention, and public education and support. These are the three elements now reflected in the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. So, what you've just described as the individual side is, I suggest, where the education becomes so important. People need to understand why corruption is a bad thing. It's not always obvious. Secondly, they need to realize the connection between corruption and their poor state of living. That connection is even more difficult for the ordinary people to understand. But that's the educational side of the strategy. The prevention side of the strategy, the systems, the procedures that you were describing, is an equally important part. And that means not people, but the systems and the procedures that people are expected to work in every day of their lives. And it's just basic good management, that you don't expose your employees to the daily temptation of working in a system that offers them the opportunity for corruption. So the prevention side of the strategy means looking at systems and procedures and eliminating as far as you can the opportunities for corruption that exist in that system. It may be a large system, it may be a small system. It may be a system for applying for passports or a driving license or a place in the local school or medical care in the local clinic. These are all systems by which we organize our lives. And it is these systems that offer us the opportunity for corruption.
Yeah, I asked you this question because, in Nepal, normally when we see anti-corruption effort in Western developed countries, the problem there is you have this rotten egg, one or two apples being rotten, and you pluck out. The solution here is to pluck out those rotten eggs or apples from the crates. And what we have, the problem here is that the crate that holds the apple itself is rotten here. This is where we have a dilemma. It's not a problem of individual aberrations, but the system.
No, so everybody tells me. I understand that's the situation here. But that's what people think. Do you know, when you start to investigate corruption effectively and carry out the national strategy effectively, you may find that perception that everything is right, everything is corrupt, is far from the truth. It is not the truth, you suddenly realize. At the moment you're dealing with a situation where everybody thinks there's pollution of corruption everywhere, that it's affected everybody, except me, of course, except you, of course, but it's affected everybody. That may be very far from the truth, but it's what people currently believe. And it's a dangerous thought that they have, because when people get fed up with corruption, then we see examples in our world today where people take to the streets, erect the barricades, start throwing things. You've got a recent example in Ukraine, you have recent examples in the Arab Spring countries, where all of those countries took to the streets because of corruption.
Okay.